welcome to the 5th online lecture. We will talk about photosynthesis today. Remember, in the in-class lecture this week, we talk about cellular respiration. You must understand cellular respiration very well, because we'll use cellular respiration as like a backbone. If you know cellular respiration, you will know photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is actually the opposite of cellular respiration. For those of you who are pre-health, you will learn cellular respiration again in physiology. That's why I teach you cellular respiration in person in the lecture, and I put photosynthesis in the online lecture. So, so we talked about cellular respiration last time, and now we talk about photosynthesis. This is like the overview. So we have producer and consumer. Yes, this is a lot easier to quantify it. So heterotroph or autotroph. Producer, aka autotroph, they are the one who can make their own food. That's why I call producer. They are not the movie or movie producer. They are the one that they can make their own food, and they use photosynthesis to make the food. Examples are the algae, plant, or certain bacteria, cyanobacteria, specifically cyanobacteria. They can all do photosynthesis to make their own food. Consumer or heterotroph, they cannot make their own food. That's why they have to eat others. They have to eat the producers, or they have to eat other heterotrophs or eat other consumers. So this is an interesting question that you can think about. Can animal exist without plant, or can plant exist without animal? So the first question, can animal exist without plant? Well, many of you will say no, of course, because animal, we eat plant, for sure. But what about plant? Can plant exist without animal? Well, this is something that you need to think about. I'll tell you in the next video. So remember, I emphasized on the two pathways, photosynthesis and cellular respiration. They should be in balance. This is how our nature work. The reactant of one pathway becomes the product. The reactant of one pathway is the product of another pathway. The product of one pathway is the reactant of another pathway. For example, in photosynthesis, the reactants are water and carbon dioxide. The products of photosynthesis are glucose and oxygen. But in cellular respiration, the reactants are the glucose and oxygen. The products are carbon dioxide and water. What it means is that photosynthesis produces glucose and oxygen for, you may think that the producer produces glucose and oxygen for the consumer to use this in the cellular respiration. But this is not completely true, because producers, they also do cellular respiration. Producers, they produce more than enough of glucose and oxygen for themselves and also for the animal, for the consumers. So you need to memorize this pathway on both ways, both for photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So what happens is that the sun is the ultimate source of energy on the earth, and the plant absorbs the sun and use photosynthesis to make sugar and oxygen. And then consumer, like animal, they will eat the plant directly, and to get the sugar, and so that they will have so that they can use sugar and oxygen to do cellular respiration. And this picture is correct. You can see the cellular respiration occur in the animal, in the consumer, but it also occurs in the plant, in the producer. And then the product of the cellular respiration is carbon dioxide and water, which the producer, the plant, use as the reactant or input for the photosynthesis. So I want to emphasize is both producer and consumer use cellular respiration. Okay, ATP is the energy that all living organisms use, including plants. Plants also use ATP. ATP again stands for adenosine triphosphate. And when it releases the inorganic phosphate, it becomes adenosine diphosphate. When it releases the inorganic phosphate, that means it is breaking the covalent bond. When you break the covalent bond, you will release the energy stored in the covalent bond. That's why ATP is the energy molecule. So it says that during photosynthesis, light or solar energy convert ADP into ATP. In the cellular respiration, sugar, the chemical energy is stored in the sugar, which means the covalent bond in the sugar molecule. We break the covalent bond in the sugar molecule to release the energy, so that we use the released energy to make ATP. Okay, remember in cellular respiration, the high energy electron carrier is called NADH or NAD. In plant, we use NADPH or NADP. So one simple way to memorize is that plant, they have a P here. So P goes with P, plant goes with the P in here. So NADPH is the one that plants use during photosynthesis. But the P here actually stands for phosphate. P here stands for phosphate, but I usually tell students that, okay, you can assume that it means plant use it for photosynthesis. You see, phosphate, plant, photosynthesis, they all start with P. So this is for photosynthesis. And then the overview of the photosynthesis, we first need to know the basic structure of the leaves. And you can see that the top layer here, you see this transparent layer, this is the cuticle, which is the waxy substances that prevent water loss. And you have this layer, the upper epidermis. And this layer is called mesophyll. Top layer of the mesophyll is called parasite mesophyll. Parasite mesophyll, this is a tightly packed cell that is filled with chloroplast. And then the bottom layer of the mesophyll is called spongy mesophyll because they have physical empty spaces. What is it for? At the bottom layer, the lower epidermis, you have something called a stroma. A stoma. A stoma is the physical opening of the leaves that allow CO2 to go in and oxygen to go out. It allows for gaseous exchange. Stoma is like our nose or our nostril. And then the empty space in the spongy mesophyll, they are for gaseous exchange. Now, once the CO2 goes into the cell and goes into chloroplast, then they can start photosynthesis. I like this box here. It tells you that the input is the light energy, carbon dioxide, and water. The output is glucose and oxygen. Very simple. It reduces the entire photosynthesis into one box. Photosynthesis has two stages. The first stage is called light reaction. The second stage is called Kelvin cycle. Kelvin cycle, aka dark reaction, because Calvin cycle does not require light. So the overall idea is that the light reaction generate the energy carrier such as NADPH and ATP, and then NADPH and ATP will be used in the Calvin cycle to make sugar. So that is the overall theme, overall reaction here. You can see that this is the summary of the entire photosynthesis. So light reaction absorbs sunlight, and then it split water into oxygen. After it split water into oxygen, it will generate the hydrogen ion. Hydrogen ion will be used later on to make ATP and NADPH. And then ATP and NADPH will be used in the Calvin cycle. Calvin cycle will reduce carbon dioxide gas and use the energy from NADPH and ATP to reduce carbon dioxide into glucose. And that is the overall photosynthesis.